Another important reason that could cause the BGP sessions to flap randomly if the BGP packets are dropped on the interface level. This is when you can see the interface is having input or output queue drops. If the interface is having drops, you can actually look at it using the command show interface gig, whatever the interface name is, pipe include drop. It will show you the drop counters for both the input queue and the output queue. If the packets are dropped at the input queue, that means the buffer of the interface is running out. There are more packets coming to the buffer of the interface than it can handle. It could be a spike of traffic, it could be excess traffic. If there's excess traffic on the interface, that means there's overrun of the interface. And you can also see at times that the overrun counters in the show interface output also increments to the value of the drops that you're seeing on the interface. Another important thing to look at is how much packets are there in the buffer and how long those packets are staying in the buffer. If you look at the output above, it says the input queue 5/75/4351/0. If you look at the output above, it says the input queue has 5 packets in the buffer. 75 is the maximum number of packets it can hold in the buffer. And 4351 is the number of drops, the input queue drops that happened. If those number of packets staying in the buffer, that is the 5, is staying consistent for a longer period of time, or it is incrementing over the period of time, you might want to check what those packets are, why those packets are getting stuck in the queue. You can actually verify those packets using the command show buffer input -interface, interface name, and the packet. It will show you what packet is there presently in the buffer. At times, you might also want to look at the output queue drops. If you are seeing output queue drops, it is most likely because you have configured QoS on your interface. Now, to solve the problem with the input queue drops or the output queue drops, you can do various things. You can increase the size of the whole queue, or you can also tweak your QoS values. But it's hard to tell if the interface is receiving a spike in the traffic or if there's a bursty traffic on the interface. The reason is because by default, the average rate of traffic is calculated based on the last 5 minutes. If there's a bursty traffic, it will not get captured easily under that average of 5-minute window. You can actually reduce that 5-minute window lower down to 30-second interval using the command load interval time in seconds. Here you can specify 30 and it will change the load interval to 30 seconds. So now the average of that packets coming to the router or packets hitting the interface will be seen as an average of 30 seconds packet rate. When you are working with the QoS policies, ensure that control plane packets are treated separately. They are marked with the proper DSCP values and they are given high priority than other traffic. This will help overcome any challenges that you face with QoS and input queue drops. One more thing that you can do is you can increase the buffer size of the interface. Let's see how you can increase it. On the router, you can go into the config mode and say interface gig 0/1. And if you want to increase the input whole queue size, what you can do is you can configure whole queue 2000 in. So now, if you look at the command show interface gig 0/1, you can see that the input queue size is now increased to 2000 packets. Means your input queue can now handle 2000 packets in the queue. The next thing you want to look at is the load interval. So right now it is set to 5-minute average, and we can change it, like mentioned before, using the load interval command. You go into the interface configuration mode, interface GI 0/1, load interval 30. And now if you look at the show interface output, now you can see that the packet rate will be calculated based on 30-second average.